Good evening, I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome to Nashville. One of the many things we've learned from the books about the Biden White House is that the president had little idea how big of a problem he'd created with an open border policy. Well, his senior staff certainly did, but they were more interested in trying to permanently change the political direction of the country, allowing millions of people to cross into Texas, Maine, Florida, California, and to vote for Democrats. Law enforcement was handcuffed by the White House. Border police were put on desk jobs. Some of the illegal migrants got so comfortable living here that they even began handing back the free food they were given, requesting meals that were more to their liking. No wonder they came by the millions. Well, immigration was the #1 issue for voters, and it's now reached a boiling point, with violent protest in Los Angeles and other cities gathering steam, a growing number of protests on campuses, members of Congress flying to El Salvador trying to make the false case that Albrego Garcia was a family man from Maryland, when he was actually a wife-abusing human trafficker with a long criminal record. Well, so here we are with Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and Pete Hegseth doing their very best to capture and arrest the bad guys. And the California governor trying to draw President Trump into a fight so he can try to attract attention for his own 2028 White House run. Well, with that, I want to bring in our guest tonight, the former White House and Department of Homeland Security official, Cooper Smith. Welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
We got a lot to talk about, but let's start with the protest in Los Angeles. 700 Marines are now joining 2,000 National Guard members. President Trump says the people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. And that's not just in LA. He's threatening to have the California governor arrested. But some people think that would play right into Gavin Newsom's hands as he tries to draw President Trump into a fight for his own political ambitions. So tell us, what are you seeing in this mess?
Well, I think to your point about Governor Newsom, it's clear that he is making this a political statement, as is Mayor Karen Bass, who I think should resign in disgrace for taking the side of cartels, human traffickers, rapists, and murderers in Los Angeles. And ICE is simply coming into that city to enforce the law that Congress has passed. So if members of Congress or these Democratic politicians don't want ICE in their city, well, they can work to change the law. But right now they have authorization, and President Trump is absolutely going to use every tool in his tool belt to achieve the goal that he promised the American people. Alan, I just want to point out one thing. We conducted a poll here at AFPI just a couple of weeks ago after 100 days in office for President Trump. And the key takeaway on immigration was, despite the media frenzy, say, about Albrego Garcia or these couple of other cases on college campuses, 51% of the American people, Republicans and Democrats combined, support deporting all illegal aliens, regardless of criminal status. We're talking anybody who's here without proper authorization should go. 51% of the American people support that.
Wow. Let me ask about the problems on our campuses. You know, years ago in my neighborhood, you had to take an SAT test and fill out an application before colleges chose the best and the brightest. Now it seems you can pay your way in from China and from other countries that hate us, regardless of your background or your intentions. Senator Blackburn agrees with President Trump that something needs to be done. Listen to how she addressed the situation at Harvard.
President Donald Trump is right. His assessment is accurate. These are adversaries. We do not need to allow them to come into our institutions to do research, to steal our intellectual property, and to do us harm. They are not our friend. They are our adversary.
You know, it's really hard to know what's worse for the country, the gang members that ICE is rounding up, or these university plants that are radicalizing our students. Where do you think the emphasis should be as Congress looks for more funding for Homeland Security?
Well, I think President Trump and his team can walk and chew gum at the same time. I would say, of course, the threat of the cartels and human traffickers, the unaccompanied children who came here by the hundreds of thousands under the Biden term and were lost by the Biden administration, should remain a priority. And I think people like Stephen Miller in the White House, of course, border czar Tom Homan, are going to continue to fight this battle day in and day out. Unfortunately, too much time is being spent in the courthouse right now instead of on the streets cleaning up the problem that Biden created. But to your point about the campuses and the Chinese individuals apprehended in recent days, I think it was at the University of Michigan, where they caught now 3 people who are involved in a bioterrorism plot to bring in a sort of blight-causing fungus, a sort of terror agent in this scheme that was clearly facilitated by the CCP, or at least their CCC affiliated individuals. So that remains a clear threat. Another story out of California, I believe it was at Stanford University, where a Chinese individual was posing as a student and trying to seek access to these sort of STEM fields, defense, AI, automation, all those fields where they obviously, in the US, we have a huge defense industry and our leaders worldwide, and they want to steal that intellectual property for their own benefit. So I think these are both distinctly unique threats, but I definitely have trust in Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Noem to battle both of these fronts at the same time.
You know, isn't a lot of this the result of the legacy media taking sides on immigration? You know, despite murders and rapes, drug deals, human trafficking, their reports seem to be completely one-sided. Trump is wrong, and the millions of people who are here illegally should be allowed to get free rooms, meals, and transportation to the city of their choice. Their viewership is shrinking, but do you see any sign of change coming in their perspective?
I don't know if I see any sign of change coming if the last 150 days of the Trump administration are any indication. They're only going to double and triple down, which I find quite fascinating from a political perspective, because they know that this is a losing issue for leftists and progressives, yet they continue to double down. So I don't know, but as to the media smears and lies that we've seen over the last not just 150 days, but really 10, 15 years. And the way I like to think about it is they're sloganeers, right? They focus on these slogans that they repeat over and over. Diversity is our strength. No human being is illegal. These are just meaningless phrases, Alan. They're completely meaningless phrases that mean nothing to the American people. They have no nuance in them. And then when we come back with, well, what about human traffickers who are in our major cities? What about the children who were lost by the Biden administration? They have no answers for any of this. So I see them as really just a political apparatus who are uninterested in law enforcement and enforcing the laws that Congress has passed or state legislatures. So it's embarrassing what the media has done. And you brought up Abrego Garcia, who has since been returned to the U.S. and now charged with trafficking. This person was, as you indicated, was stopped in, I believe, your state in Tennessee on his way from Texas to Maryland with 7 or 8 people in his car, none of whom had identification of any kind. This was clearly human trafficking going on. And unfortunately, he was not detained in that instance, but yet the media continues to sort of root for his cause, calling him, of course, the Maryland man. He's a father, and releasing these pictures of him that are designed to appeal to our base human emotions, which are real, but they obfuscate the facts of the situation. And the American people, unfortunately, are victims of the media's narrative. And I think that's why people like you and myself are continuing to fight this fight to get the facts out there.
Well, let's take a short break, and I want to suggest you use this time just to jump on ajnow.com. It's our new web home. There's lots of options for you there, including you can write me an email with your thoughts on immigration or anything else you'd like us to consider. We'll be right back. We're back now with the Director of Communications at the America First Policy Institute, Cooper Smith. Let's move to the economy and the big, beautiful budget, as the president calls it. What's not beautiful is the dishonesty coming from the opposition, such as this comment from California Senator Adam Schiff.
If you're wealthy, you're going to get over $250,000 tax cut every year. If you're poor, you're actually going to get a tax increase out of this bill. So the benefits are heavily weighted to the wealthiest Americans, and they're taking it from families that are hungry, and they're taking it from families that will lose access to health care.
Adam Schiff has a long record of storytelling. And with the protest heating up in LA this week, Republicans believe that will bring even more enthusiasm toward passing the bill, since immigration is the #1 issue and the bill provides more security funding. What are you hearing?
I actually just wrote an op-ed on the big, beautiful bill just last week about how the bill is primed to supercharge the president's priorities on the border, right? So it provides for about $45 billion for border wall funding and about an equal amount to supplant ICE in order to carry out these deportation operations that Border Czar Tom Homan has been leading. So I think no bill is perfect. You're not going to find a policy person here in Washington, D.C. who's ever going to find a bill that they agree with 100%. But in terms of extending the tax cuts that President Trump passed in 2017 and supercharging the deportation and building and finishing the border wall, I'm absolutely supportive of those provisions in the bill.
Well, the larger debate seems to be between those who think the way to grow the economy is to let working people keep more of their income versus those who think it's better to go after wealthy people and businesses. Doesn't the bill that's shaping up start us on the path to less spending as well as letting working people pay less tax?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And you're right to point out that, this idea that people on the left, people like Adam Schiff, like to propagate that we're only for the wealthy. The Tax Cuts Act in 2017 affected basically all income brackets. So this is just a complete lie from progressives and the media, but that is what they do. And they can't let President Trump or his administration or anybody on the right get any sort of victory or credit for anything, despite the fact that we had the world's strongest economy from 2017 to 2021 when Biden came around. And, historic unemployment numbers for Hispanic Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans, women, et cetera. So the facts matter on this case for the extension of the tax cuts. And I think we absolutely need to do it. It's critical, and it should remain in the bill, in the big, beautiful bill.
With a fallout between the president and Elon Musk, and Musk threatening to build an independent party, do you have any fear that Musk could derail passage of the bill since he's pushing for more deeper cuts?
I don't think so. I deeply appreciate what Elon did, standing up the Doge effort. His efforts last year, I thought, showed genuine courage that I don't think we often see from leaders in business, unfortunately, in this country. They tend to be very risk-averse people and try to stay out of politics. And if they do engage in politics, it's just lofty kind of diversity stuff and pride stuff, and it's really meaningless. So I thought Elon showed a lot of courage after the first assassination attempt to side with an America First agenda. And I'm very happy with what's going on with Doge, the $170 billion that they've saved. That's money that taxpayers can get back. And, unfortunately, it's our children and grandchildren are going to be paying back the $37 trillion that we have in debt now. So I'm skeptical that that's going to derail anything with the bill, the sort of fight between Trump and Elon, if you want to call it that. I saw the president say the other day that he was deeply appreciative of Elon, and so am I.
Well, another factor in the growth this year will be consumer confidence. And yet that confidence seems stalled by the tariff negotiations and the uncertainty about whether inflation might return. How much time does the White House have before people lose confidence that Republicans can improve their financial situation?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the time is limited, and the trade negotiations are ongoing. I think there's great headway made with the United Kingdom, with Japan, and a few other countries, South Korea. So we're starting to see the bricks kind of fall into place in terms of the trade negotiations. But I have no doubt that of all the people in the world to negotiate, I would trust President Trump to do that over anyone else.
One more question. Even with all the friction, the Democrats have done nothing to improve their standing as they're still trying to come to grips with their election loss. That's true of the legacy media as well, which still only knows how to punch at President Trump, regardless of the progress we're seeing. Do you think any of this is going to change across these next few months?
I wouldn't be too confident of that, Alan. I think it's best exemplified by the statement that Kamala Harris put out 2 days ago regarding the LA riots, calling them again, I'm remembering 2020 here, calling them mostly peaceful protests. And she was a person who was fundraising for rioters in Minneapolis. I mean, this is craziness. So if we thought there was going to be any soul searching from the left over the last 6 or 7 months after the categorical defeat that they faced in November, I don't think that's happening. At least I haven't seen it yet.
Well, Cooper Smith, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We'll have you back soon. I'm sure we'll need some updates on what's happening. In a moment, I'll have some thoughts of my own about how we can lead the country forward from your home. When everyone is left to make their own determinations of what is true, we quickly find out that we're living in the midst of the theater of the absurd. We see spiritual forces of darkness expressed with increasing boldness and frequency in some very tangible ways. Things like lawlessness, like the violence carried out on the streets of major cities against law enforcement by criminal actors who are here illegally and by those who support them. They burn cars of law-abiding citizens. They burn the American flag, attack law enforcement, curse America. Yet they fight to stay illegally in the very nation they curse. Well, add to that the people of influence in politics, like former Vice President Kamala Harris, who defended the, as she put it, overwhelmingly peaceful protesters in her home state of California. Remember, she was also the border czar during the last administration. Our borders have been open for a lengthy season, facilitated by the people who were in authority over us. They were telling us of a porous, unsecure border was our imagination. They counseled millions of people to do something illegally as a means of joining us. That's a very bad precedent to establish. Well, I believe we're going to have to endure, to walk through and even overcome a season of confusion, chaos, and disruption, because the people that initiated it don't want to see the moment of destruction disrupted. And without the people of faith, the world will just collapse into anarchy. You have a role to play, and it's more than sitting in church. You see, there would be no restraint to the forces of darkness that strive to plunge humanity into despair and brutalism without your faith. Well, unfortunately, as Christians, we too often abandon our culture to the demonic encroachment of tyranny by remaining silent. This isn't about political parties or candidates. As Christ followers, we have to engage. A healthy, vibrant church is what brings freedom and liberty to humanity and will secure not only our future, but the future of our children and our grandchildren. Your voice, it matters. And if we'll use it to honor our Lord, I promise there are more reasons for hope than despair. We'll be back in just a moment with your emails. Hey, just a reminder, you can go to ajnow.com. If you like our show, you'll like the website. You can see everything we've ever done there. There's a newsletter to keep you up with our most recent activities. Be sure to share the idea of the program with a friend. The more people you engage to watch, the more opportunities we'll have for the future. Your emails are always a highlight. Phyllis in Virginia wrote, "If illegals are illegal, then they're criminals. They're not citizens. They don't respect our laws. Why do they have any rights in our country? They're hurting U.S. citizens. They should be cast out." You know, I don't disagree, Phyllis. I think the heart of that discussion is if they entered our country by avoiding due process. It seems bizarre to me now, all the voices that are claiming they should be given due process before exiting the country. They don't respect our processes. They don't respect our laws. Why do we imagine they would submit to them as they're being invited to exit the country? Karen in Kentucky wrote, "The anti-Semitism across our country continues to shock me. Are we not teaching children the truth about the Holocaust?" No, I don't think we are, Karen. But I think more importantly, we haven't taught the children the truth about anti-Semitism, easy for me to say, through all the generations. The hatred of the Jewish people is not a 21st century issue. It's in the pages of our scripture. It was happening in the first century, and it continues to happen today. It's going to take some intentional work on behalf of the churches to help us all understand that as Christ followers, we're indebted to the Jewish people. Without the Jewish people, we have no scripture. We would have no Messiah. We don't stand apart from them. We stand in a faith that has been extended to us because of their faithfulness. And we haven't done a great job on that assignment. Kyle in Texas wrote, "What do you think about the very public fallout between President Trump and Elon Musk?" You know, big picture, I think it's unfortunate. I'm most grateful for the work that Elon Musk has done in helping expose the excess, the waste, and the fraud in our government and how it's been spent. You know, from a distance, I think watching that play out, they serve in two very different roles, and that's very apparent now. The spat seems to be the difference to me in a consultant and someone who's the responsible party. The consultant comes in and accepts a very specific assignment, but the responsible person's left to have to make all the pieces fit into the puzzle. And that's not always easily done, and the consultants don't always cheer. I think they're going to work out their differences and work together for the betterment of our country. Well, we appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time this evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.